الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وخليله وصفيه وأمينه على وحيه ومصطفاه من خلقه. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح لهذه الأمة الكريمة الشريفة، وجاهد في الله تعالى حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين، فترك أمته على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. فما من خير إلا دل الأمة عليه، وما من شر إلا حذره من صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. All praises indeed they belong to Him, Allah, the exalted, the sublime, the mighty King, the one whom we call upon, the one whose help we seek, the one whose forgiveness, mercy, and pardon we implore, the one whose refuge and safe haven we ask of to be granted and gifted, and for us to be placed in a safe space from our own inner and outer evils. The one whom we ask to guide us to the straight path and keep us firm thereupon. And the one whom we ask to protect us and never ever for it to be our destiny to be misled, to be misguided, to be deaf, dumb, and blind, to be heedless, to be weak and incapable of seeing the truth, hearing it, let alone listening to it. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect us from being too weak and too cowardly, from accepting and embracing the truth, following it and submitting to that truth. I will witness and I testify that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone deserves to be worshipped. And I will witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His chosen servant, His messenger, and His apostle. May His name be raised and extolled. May He be elevated and placed in a lofty station. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with our mothers, His wives, all of them, His sons and grandsons and daughters, the believers from His line and from His posterity. May Allah Azza wa Jalla be pleased with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Umar al-Faruq, Uthman ibn Nurayn, and the great lion Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu an al-Jamia. The rest of the 10 companions who promised Jannah, all of the Sabiqeen al-Awwaleen and al-Muhajirin al-Ansar, those who followed them, those who migrated, those who took them in and welcomed them in Medina, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to remain upon their path. أما بعد, فيقول الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى في كتابه الجامع الصحيح: حدثنا يحيى بن قزعة قال حدثنا إبراهيم بن سعد عن أبيه عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لقد كان فيما قبلكم من الأمم محدثون، فإن يكن في أمتي أحد فإنه عمر. زاد زكريا بن أبي زائدة عن سعد عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لقد كان في من كان قبلكم من بني إسرائيل رجال يكلمون من غير أن يكونوا أنبياء فإن يكن من أو في أمتي منهم أحد فعمر. قال ابن عباس من نبي ولا محدث. So what will it be this year? I'm going to lose weight. No. I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes. I'm going to marry my girlfriend. I'm going to wear my hijab. I'm going to stop killing people and shooting people for fun or for business. I'm going to go to the mosque at least once a week. I'm going to stop smoking drugs for my children's sake. I'm going to start running and jogging. What's your New Year's resolution? Is it spiritual? Is it religious? Is it worldly? Do you have an option to make a New Year's resolution? Is it a choice to stop smoking? Is it a choice to start praying? Is it a choice to marry your girlfriend because you're tired of making zina? Or are you getting married because your mother's saying that I want a grandson that's legitimate, son? I don't want a bastard. Again. I want a legal grandson. Halal grandson. You're going to marry this girl. You love her, she loves you. She either becomes a Muslim and you marry her, or you walk away from her. What's your New Year's resolution? Is it a choice? Is it an option? Is it towards the better, or is it towards the worst? What is your intention behind your resolution? Making a New Year's resolution, let alone celebrating New Year's, like all things, have a very long and deep history. But put that on pause for 1 second, just 1 second. And let us mention the words of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, which are authentic in Bukhari, Muslim. Rather, in Sahih Bukhari, excuse me. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, indeed, there was a time, before your era, there were men who were in tune with their senses to a very high degree. They had a very acute sense of instinct, of third eye or sixth sense. They were sharp, they were witty, as if they got revelation, as if someone was telling them and speaking to them and telling them what to do, as if they had the foreknowledge to see ahead of time. They felt things, they knew things, they sensed things. Indeed, there are many of them in my ummah, the hadith means. And if there were one of them, if there was someone who had the knowledge as if he was a prophet, as if, then no doubt it would be Umar. Umar ibn al-Khattab. If there was anyone in my ummah who was forthright, who was rightly guided, who could see further than the average man, who could feel more than the average man, and whenever he felt or thought, whenever he guessed, whenever he took a blind shot, he always would hit the mark. He would hit the bullseye without aiming, without knowing where the bullseye was. He would split the arrow that initially hit the bullseye. The archer hits the mark, perfect shot. And then he shoots another arrow which splits that arrow. But he did it with his eyes closed. Or it was dark. He wasn't even trying. If there's anyone from my ummah that is that sharp, then certainly it would be Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. Another version of this hadith tells us is that among the Hebrews, Banu Israel, not the fake fraudulent people today, but the actual descendants, followers, brethren of Musa, whether those who followed his way, the Muslims, the Jews, the Hebrews, the Israelites, or those who actually related to him, who lived and dwelt in that land. Banu Israel, the children of Israel, the real children of Israel. There were people who were among them. There were men, rijalun, yukallamun. They were spoken to. They were given some type of knowledge. They were given some type of insight, but they weren't prophets. Even though Banu Israel was full of prophets. So many prophets and messengers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave them what He gave no one else. But that's a story for another time. So these men, they were spoken to. as if they were prophets, but they weren't prophets. And if there was one from my ummah, from the Arabs, from my people, from my brethren, and from my followers and disciples, if there was one, and there are several, indeed it will be Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So this authentic hadith shows and proves the virtue, the merit, the excellence, and the superiority of this great companion of the Prophet, Umar ibn al-Khattab, is that he was so guided. The scholars of Islam, they have a collection of things which are called muwafaqatu Umar. The times in which Umar ibn al-Khattab made a suggestion to the Prophet. The times in which Umar did something or said something or guessed. He put forth an idea, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the revelation. Exactly as Umar told the Prophet what he should do. Oh Messenger of Allah, we should do this. Oh Messenger of Allah, I see it like that. Oh Messenger of Allah, how about we do this? And then Allah would send down the revelation. There are different narrations which Umar radiallahu anhu says, وَأَفَقْتُ رَبِّي فِي ثَلَاثٍ. 3 times that I was exactly in order with Allah, my Lord. And there are many. Some say 15, and some say أكثر من 15, more than 15 times. In which Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was exactly on point, as if he got the revelation too. So Umar radiallahu anhu, among the companions, he had a very high status. And that high status is that his intuition wasn't like that of other men. He was greater than other men when it came to that. When it came to saying things that were accurate, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He honored him by sending down the revelation. Take from the station of Ibrahim. Oh Muhammad, tell your women to wear the hijab. What do you do with the captives of Badr? The Muslims were outnumbered, they were outgunned, 3-1. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them victory. He humiliated the heads of Quraysh. He allowed the companions' swords to be quenched and quelled with their blood. And there were many captives. The Messenger of Allah says he didn't kill them. He didn't slaughter them. He didn't torture them. He didn't maim them. He didn't starve them or send them to famine. He didn't know what to do just yet. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he made a suggestion. Oh Messenger of Allah, this is what you should do with the captives. Let us benefit from them. Tell them to teach the companions who are illiterate to read and to write. Give them da'wah to Islam. Make them ransom themselves, etc. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent down the revelation on what to do with the captives of Badr. What is to be done with those captives? And there's example after example after example in which Umar radiallahu anhu made a suggestion, made a decision. He guessed. He shot blindly. And it was exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from him. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us is that there were men in this ummah, there are men who have this gift, who have this talent. And at the top of them is Umar ibn al-Khattab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him. And accept all of his good deeds and allow us to be upon his path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have a piece of the courage and bravery of Umar ibn al-Khattab. And maybe our ummah will be in a better shape if we weren't so scared and cowardly. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله تعالى لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وصلاة الله وسلامه على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. What does Umar ibn al-Khattab have to do with New Year's and New Year's resolutions? You may be thinking or asking, what is the connection? What is the correlation? What is the relativity between this and between that? We as Muslims have our own way. We have our own identity. We have our own culture. We have our own language and languages. Main language, regardless of ethnicity and blood, and then we have the languages which are associated with Islam, spoken by people who are predominantly Muslims, etc. And if whenever you wish to, and this is very relative to today, it's much more than just conquering. It's much more than just killing and annihilating. But we have to not only cleanse, but we now have to reinvent our identity and the identity of this land and of this country and its geography. The words, the places, the towns, the cities, the wells, which aren't obliterated and done away with, beneath parking lots, playgrounds, amusement parks, and museums. The villages, the historical sites that used to be here, that haven't been totally done away with, their name magically turns from Arabic into Hebrew. So it's no longer Bi'r Sab'a, but it's now Bi'r Shiva. Sounds more, Jewish and ancient. The country that has a 3,000-year history that began in 1948. They cleansed it. We have to reinvent everything. Our names, everything has to be reinvented. Because we want to have our own separate identity. And from the identity of a people is how they calculate time. Days, nights, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, millennia, etc. Who was the one who invented? Who was the one who made the prophetic calendar? The calendar of the Hijrah. 1440, such and such. 1420, such and such. How do we know when the Prophet ﷺ went and left Mecca, arriving in Medina? When did he die? When was this verse sent down? What year do the Muslims tell and keep their age with? 40, based off of this calendar, or the Islamic calendar? What month is Sha'ban? Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Rabi al-Awwal, Jum'ah al-Akhir. What is Dhul Hijjah? Of course, we all know Ramadan. That's when we fast. That's when we come to the mosque. That's when we eat. That's when we read the Holy Quran in Ramadan. But the month before Ramadan, what's it called? The month after Ramadan, what's it called? Does your son know all of the 12 Islamic months? And does he know, or does your daughter know, the history of the Hijrah and this method of calculating time? Indeed, it was a letter that changed history forever. From Umar ibn al-Khattab to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Years after the Messenger of Allah left the companions, Umar came up with the idea that the Muslims, we need our own identity. We cannot rely upon the Persian calendar. We cannot rely upon the Chinese calendar. We cannot rely upon these people. We need our own calendar because we have our own language. We have our own religion. We have our own identity. And he is the one. He's the pioneer and the trailblazer of counting the years according to the Hijrah. So, what is wrong with New Year's? What is wrong with New Year's Day or New Year's Eve? What is wrong with a New Year's resolution? There are many things wrong. But one of the greatest things wrong with celebrating New Year's, commemorating New Year's, is that it causes you to forget about the Islamic calendar. And on the first day of the new Islamic year, how many Muslims, for argument's sake, it's okay to celebrate it, how many of them celebrate it? When's the last time you've seen a celebration on the first day of the Islamic calendar? When's the last time? Have you ever seen that in a masjid? A party, food and cake, and special desserts and special dishes. This is the Islamic New Year's. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever heard that? Maybe the Prophet's birthday, maybe the Eid, maybe Jumu'ah. But when's the last time the Muslims all knew and were aware of our calendar? And what spiritual resolution I'm going to make starting in the beginning of the Islamic calendar. I'm going to make Tawbah sincerely this year. I'm going to stop the haram. I'm going to perform my Islamic obligations. I'm going to make amends with my family, etc. No, January the 1st is when we make our resolutions with the mushrikun, with the pagans who started New Year's and the New Year's resolution, New Year's celebration. Like all Western holidays have direct and indirect pagan roots. Not even Christian. That's bad enough to imitate the Christians who are Baalim. They're astray. They're ignorant. They don't know what to do. Is Allah one of three? Is Christ God? Is he the Son of God? Is Mother of God? Do we call upon Joseph? Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran? They have no guidance On one block, you'll find 4 and 5 churches. They have no guidance. They're astray. They're lost. How can we imitate them? But for argument's sake, the celebration of New Year's in the manner in which people do it today is directly connected to the mushrikun. And we know that a Muslim man is allowed to marry a chaste Christian woman. You can have a Christian wife as long as she's chaste. She isn't a whore. She's clean and chaste. You're allowed to marry her. It's not necessarily the best decision, for sure, in 2024 or 2025. And that's because if you get divorced, how is your son going to grow up? 3 days in the mosque, 3 days in the church. He celebrates Ramadan, he also celebrates Easter. How confused will your son be? Rather, if you marry a Muslim woman and you get divorced, you and your ex-wife are at odds with each other on values and rules. I don't want my daughter dressing like that, wearing tight clothes. No, she can dress like that. She's okay. She's still little. You're going to argue and fight with Muslims, let alone with someone who thinks that Allah is one of 3. Or if you don't get divorced, and like many of us today, unfortunately, we're weak men. We don't have backbones. Women tell us what to do and how to do it and when to do it. They're in control. So therefore, this is a cross in our house. Our son is going to learn the way of the cross, and he's going to learn about Allah and Muhammad. Both. It's okay? Versus a time in which the Muslims were strong and powerful. The Muslims were dominant, and a Christian woman looked at it as a favor to be married to a Muslim man. I'm going to be protected, fed, I'm going to be kept, I'm going to be maintained. I don't mind living with the Muslims. That's better than living with those people. As some of the courts of Constantine said, when the Muslims, when Mehmet, the conqueror, Muhammad al-Fatih, when they were on the outskirts of the walls of Constantinople, what do? Do we make terms with these nomadic savages? These Mohammedans? Do we fight them? Do we have enough men to fight against these people on our walls? And one of his ministers, he said, we should make peace with them. We should make terms with them. He said, I'd rather see a Turkish turban instead of the red cap of the cardinal. I'd rather have a turban in Constantinople than the cap of the Pope or the Cardinal. I'd rather be with the Muslims instead of the Christians who are unjust and tyrannical. So marrying a Christian woman is permissible with conditions. But you cannot marry a pagan woman. You can't marry a woman who's a Hindu. It's haram for a Muslim to marry a Hindu. You can't have a Hindu wife. It's unlawful and your marriage is invalid. Your child is not a legitimate Islamic child if you marry a woman who is a Hindu. It's impermissible. Let alone the abomination of a Muslim woman marrying a Hindu man. It's a one-way street. Men are allowed to marry Christians and Jews with conditions. Muslim women can only marry Muslim men. So for argument's sake, the Christian is closer to Tawheed than the Mushrik, for argument's sake. We can eat their slaughtered meats, their animals, so on and so forth. But the Mushrik is further away. The Mushrik can't live in the lands of the Muslims. So therefore, if celebrating New Year's and having the New Year's resolution and the New Year's celebration, Times Square, etc., the confetti, the hat, the champagne, if it's bad because it imitates the Christians, then how bad is it if it imitates the mushrikun, the pagans? What is the Gregorian calendar? Pope Gregory of the 16th century. What is the Julian calendar? Julius, who donated the New Year celebration to a goddess named Janus. Hence we have January. And all of the months and the days of the week are named and devoted to gods and goddesses. The entire culture is based off of shirk. And people made oaths, vows, promises, donations, and offerings to these false gods. Hence the New Year's resolution. The New Year's resolution. Well, I'm not worshiping no other God. I just want to lose some weight, Stop smoking. Is that haram, Mahi? Why would you want to imitate these people? And for argument's sake, it's okay. You can make your New Year's resolution, but show the same respect for the first of what month? Muharram. Give respect to the Islamic calendar. Give respect to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu's sunnah. Sunnatul Khulafa al-Rashideen. So, the shirk involved in New Year's, that's one discussion. Imitation of the Christians involved in New Year's, that's one discussion. The superstitions involved in New Year's, that's one discussion. But the backwardsness of a New Year's resolution is that I have an option to stop smoking cigarettes, which is killing my lungs. It's causing me cancer, but I'm going to quit. I'm going to make that my resolution. How many people keep their resolutions? And I'm going to lose weight after I eat and drink and have fun and party. I'm going to put the ring on her hand, my girlfriend's finger, after I make zina, wake up drunk, and wake up in a place that I can't even remember. I don't even know what happened last night. Why is there a ball? Why does the ball drop? Why doesn't the ball go up? There's a history behind that. And why is it in Times Square? Where was the ball previously? You find the answer to that. You're going to find pagan, Christian, and at best, disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we as Muslims have our own identity. And we are to make resolutions to do the right thing every single day. We are to renew our faith. We are to ask Allah to renew and to update our faith. Every single salah, guide us to the straight path. Keep us firm upon the straight path. Do not make us of those whom you've become angry with, O Allah. And do not make us to be among those who have gone astray. So the Muslims' resolution is 24/7. The Muslims' promise to obey, to do the right thing, is supposed to be 24/7. We don't need their holidays. We don't need their festivities. Shameful for Muslims. Many of you celebrated Christmas. Sat down and ate the food and drunk with your family. Shame upon you. Thanksgiving, a mockery, and a laughing stock at the history of this country to celebrate that day. There's nothing wrong with eating turkey. I love turkey. Turkey sandwich, give me a drumstick, a breast, a wing, gravy. There's nothing wrong with that. But not on your day, and not in the manner in which you choose to show thankfulness to Allah one day out the year. You choose to show thanks to God one day out the year. It's disrespectful. We show thanks to Allah every single day, every single salah, every breath that we take. So we are in no need of their holidays, of their festivals, because they include so many horrors. So many horrors. And whoever imitates the people is from them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a new year of obedience. Amen. And to give us a year of tawbah. And to give us true, strong Islamic identity. Amen. That which is contrast to the pagans, the Jews, and the Christians. Oh Allah, help those who are fighting hard in your cause. Amen. Oh Allah, give them patience. Oh Allah, allow their shots to be accurate and on point. Amen. Oh Allah, place fear and terror in the hearts of your enemies. Amen. Oh Allah, make the feet of those who fight hard in your cause to be firm and solid. Amen. Oh Allah, heal all of the Muslims who are wounded and sick and ill. Amen. Oh Allah, have mercy upon the Muslims who have lost their lives. Amen. Oh Allah, help the Muslims who are incarcerated and detained. Amen. Oh Allah, help the Muslims who are in debt and suffering from financial difficulties. Amen. Oh Allah, help the Muslim youth who are trying to get married and do the right thing. Amen. Oh Allah, please mend all of the relationships of the Muslims around the world, leaders and the led. Amen. Oh Allah, please show us the truth and allow us to follow it. Oh Allah, please show us the falsehood and allow us to stay away from it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.